welcome everybody. June 1, hard to believe it's June, Policy and Finance Committee meeting. I will call this meeting to order. It's nice and warm and toasty in here, so we will try to move this thing along today so no one passes out. Make sure you're drinking water. If you hear a fan in the background, that's because there's many of them blowing. With that, I know that two of us are here. I believe Councilmember Valdivia Alcala will be on soon. She's doing some grandkid things for the summer and doing her best to get them around town, and she will be on here soon, but she said to go ahead and get started. So with that, we are called to order, and I would make a motion to get us started to approve the minutes from the March 2023 meeting.
I would second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Easy. Next on my list, we will get right into a follow-up discussion we had in March regarding a NODO Development Fund. I don't know who's going to take that one on or bring us back up to date. But.
Thanks, Chair. What I can tell you is that I think at debate was whether or not that was a program that we wanted to start. Finance team has looked at it. As far as viability for 2024, we do believe that there is the ability within our budget to fund that if the committee and council as a whole chooses to do so. The second question that was raised was, if that were to pass, could that be started in 2023? And again, with the finance team, if the plan were to be put into place by governing body, we could do something here in 2023. Our forecasts right now, as of through the end of May, are such that it's a cost that we could absorb in 2023.
So if we move it forward, I guess we need to do it in some form or fashion that says we want to establish this fund definitely starting in 2024, with some caveat that if finance can, if we think there's the funds to backdate or started at some point in 2023, great, we support that. So at least that gets the ball moving, and then you guys can report back. And then NODO knows at least it starts next year, and hopefully we can get them something this year. Would that
would be our recommendation.
Okay, so do I need to repeat that, or can we just make that a motion and? Okay. Yeah. Do I have a second?
You sure do.
All right. Is there anyone here who wanted to speak on that? I see Tom's here. You do not have to speak at all. I just wanted to give you the opportunity if you had anything to say to us. That's a dangerous thing to just give anyone a live microphone, but I want to make sure you didn't have, okay. I know Councilmember Valdivia Alcala isn't here yet. She obviously has been a big proponent of that, so credit to her for harassing me to make sure this got on our agenda these last couple months and that we move this forward. I'm glad to do it. I know that NODO is a big part of the community. Has not, just so people know, because we don't mention it a lot, has not gotten funds from transient guest tax or other city resources. So this is a little bit of new territory, but it's clearly an economic development area that we all tout and are proud of. So to be able to start supporting them where we can is great for all of us, I think. Councilmember Nager, do you have anything to ask or add?
Nope.
Staff want to add anything else?
Just Chair, that if assuming we get an affirmative vote here this afternoon, we'll work on the legal side as far as drafting it.
Sure.
My guess is we'll go on the council agenda for the first meeting in July, which is, I believe, July 11, because July 4th is obviously a holiday. So we would likely put this on agenda for July 11.
Works for me. We'll do our best to explain it. It's pretty straightforward, but make sure we. All right. Well, then, if there's no other comments or questions, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With that, it'll move forward. All right. Next up is the Property Tax Relief Program. I don't know. We talked about this last month. We talked about sort of two methods, but we had to do some research. One is a rebate program or a refund program, whatever fancy word we want to use. And the other was my desire, but I know there's a hiccup there, to make it just exemption program without any money ever having to exchange hands. But I'll let Freddie catch us up and give us the update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since last time that we met, I had the opportunity to talk to my colleagues at the county. We'd had robust discussions, and I would generalize it. In summary, I would say that the method that you would like does come with several complications, but the rebate option, I would say, is still on the table.
So can you walk me through, because we don't have it, I think, in the packet, or I missed it, and it's fine. Are we, the qualifications, are we mirroring those pretty close to the homestead?
From the state of Kansas.
From the state of Kansas homestead program?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that was the intent. So, and then I guess, do they update theirs regularly? Because I know there's a date of birth, which I'm assuming gets updated. I don't know if we have to, the only reason I ask, you don't have to answer now, is to make sure if we have to build in that trigger to automatically update, we need to do that so we don't have to approve this every year, right? Because I don't think they do it at the legislative level every year, but. So just something to consider as we put it together.
We will look at options. We have slightly different rules than the legislature because of cash basis,
Right.
which makes things tricky. But we will evaluate options to try to come up with something.
I was looking at it again yesterday, and I thought, oh, I didn't think about the moving birth date thing for the age requirement, so I didn't know how that worked. So just a reminder to the world out there, the purpose of this program, as I brought it to the city, was obviously we can't just eliminate property taxes. We need that income to run things like, police and fire and pay for streets. But I think that anytime we can offer relief to those folks who are of a certain age or in a certain income bracket, who really shouldn't have to make the choice between paying our 30 mils or whatever it is at the time versus having to sell their home, if we can offer them that relief, I'm going to be confident and hopeful that someday other taxing entities in the area, the city and the school board, will follow our lead and slip into what we're doing. And I will say, I'd like to move this forward under how we're going to establish it as a rebate. I will talk to the county, because it will be much easier once we've put it all together and passed it even in that form to make a change later if we can convince the county to do it the way we'd really like to do it. So I will have conversations with them about whether it's they can't do it or they kind of don't want to do it, and that's okay. That's their prerogative. But so while I'm not awesome that it's a refund program first, because it means you'll still have to put out a little money, but at least you'll get it back. At least it gets it moving forward, and we'll see if we can work with the county on the other part of that. So, but that's a me issue, not the staff's issue. So I appreciate their work on what they've put together. Yes, City Manager.
So Chair, would you like us to, as we're assembling the 24 budget, would you like us to assemble that with the assumption that program is at least going to go to governing body for?
Yes, because I will work really hard to get this governing body to pass this thing in.
We'll work under that assumption.
So then you don't have to go back and rework it if we can move
Sure.
it forward. So hopefully we can, again, offer those folks who qualify for homestead now to give them some relief, at least here within the city of Topeka on our mill. Councilmember Nager, any questions, comments, concerns?
I do have a quick question. Can you explain a little bit more? I'm having a little bit of issue with the sound, so maybe it didn't come through clearly. But can you explain again why the rebate rather than just the flat exemption is going to be the clearest way to go forward?
So I will have to, and maybe staff can add a little context, but essentially what I think it comes down to is they have a computer system that they use at the county. And in order to, you basically, and this is simplifying it in a way that I'm sure is not accurate, but it's close. They got to plug the numbers in and say, we took the money in before they can put it back out, as opposed to just clearing out the line item of the mills that says they didn't pay their property tax. Okay, so the question will be, the county is, my guess is that's not the simplest of changes to make, and it probably comes with a cost. And so I will have that conversation with the county, and if it's cost related and it's not horrible, maybe we can work on helping them with. I don't know what those options are, so I don't want to speak for the county, but I'm sure at the end of the day, it honestly comes down to additional clerical steps and computer issues that are a little more cumbersome for their clerks to have to deal with. Whereas it's easier for us to just rebate the money back.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can't get around reality and these sorts of programs, and we want people to get the money at some point. So, yeah, if we're getting to a place where people are actually getting that money back in reality, then that's going to be the best option for us going forward. I appreciate your work on this, Chair, and for working the governing body too. But yeah, thank you so much for doing the further research on this to staff. And yeah, I feel good about it.
All right. Anything else staff wants to add? All right. Well, if you guys are good with it, I guess write it up and let's make it happen. Do we need to take a vote at this point, or do you want to bring it back to us once it's written? Because we'll probably meet again in like 6 weeks or less or so.
I think you could probably advise us of your intent, whether that's verbally or official. If you want the reference to the governing body as far as being a recommendation of this committee, we probably need some sort of at least an advisory vote.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll be there, governing body, and you can.
Okay. Well, then I would move that we move forward with a proposal forward onto the full governing body, property tax relief homestead version proposal, whatever we're going to call it at the end of the day, and forward that onto give staff permission to write it up and forward it onto the governing body for full consideration. Do I have a second?
You have a second?
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Did anyone here have comments on that? I doubt it, but I want to make sure. All right. Next up, auxiliary housing unit. I have no idea what this one is. Well, I kind of do, but not really.
All right, I'll talk about this briefly. So we're talking about accessory dwelling units, also known as ADUs. So what is an ADU? It's also been known as a carriage house, a garlo, a mother-in-law suite. It's generally a smaller, independent residential dwelling located on the same lot as a single-family home. So it can be attached to that home. It can be detached from that home in an accessory building. It can also be converted to portions of that existing building. So somebody builds an ADU in their basement, for instance. So why ADUs? There's a potential to increase housing affordability, provide a wider array of housing options. One thing I want to note here is that we currently permit ADUs in our zoning code in multifamily and other zoning districts. The change that we're talking about now is to permit ADUs in single-family districts. So single-family, it's in the name, that's only one unit. So we're talking about adding another unit to single-family districts. Talk about our process to date real quick. Staff presented a missing middle presentation to the Planning Commission in April of 22. One of the sort of implementation items in missing middle is an accessory dwelling unit to make that legal. We did an accessory dwelling unit survey in August of 22, an online survey, and we presented those results to the Planning Commission in October of 22. So what we've been doing since that time is refining a draft. We're not finalizing a draft, but we need a draft that's in a good spot for what would be our next steps to form a review group to review that draft and maybe some parking, some missing middle parking changes, and then at some point hold public meetings and circle back to the Planning Commission once we're confident we have something to go forward with. And that's it. Be happy to answer any questions.
We already have some of these right now, right? I mean, we're not going in and making people knock them down or anything, but I mean, and that's fine because some of the houses were older or got converted. I mean,
yeah, there are examples around town. In the presentation that we have for this, we include examples from around town that if we get the question, we would likely say they were a grandfathered use and
right.
They were created at some point when it was legal or just before we had zoning or something like that.
And that's why my next question would be whatever, and I know it still has to be put together, but I assume some consideration. In other words, we'd formalize it and have some newer policies as to when you construct them, but we would still say the ones that are there, you're good, basically, right?
Yes, if it was determined to be legal or legal non-conforming prior to the adoption of this change, it would retain its legal non-conforming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, city manager.
So Chair, we're, at this point in time, we're not prepared to make a recommendation. What we need to do is start to reach out into the community for some input so that we can gather some information. We certainly didn't want to do that without notice being given to this committee because I suspect that as soon as we start that, there may be some public comment that was that will be welcomed, but you may not be prepared for.
Yeah.
So really, we just wanted to give you some advice as far as, or at least advise you that we were going to reach out and start gathering information.
No, well, I think that's good, but that's why I also want the folks who already have some of these to know we're not coming after what you got.
Right.
We're just focused on as people do add-ons or new construction projects that they conform to some sort of zoning and permitting process, up to code, all that exciting stuff. So, Councilmember Nager, you have any questions?
I do. I am very excited that we're looking into this as a city. One of the things that we hear constantly about the housing study was that we don't have the units in the city to really support the type of growth that we want to see here. And so I know that this is going to open up a more creative use for a lot of the land that we already have in the city, especially representing a district that has a lot of single-family housing in it. I know that this not only opens up opportunities for maybe people to go ahead and build units for multifamily, multi-generational living situations, keeping people kind of aging in place, but in units that could be more beneficial for them and letting their children live in the house, that sort of stuff. But also with being around Washburn, I think this is an awesome opportunity for students to have safe housing options and for the residents around to have another way to go ahead and bring income into their household. And so I'm very excited about exploring this further. At this point, I think one of the first things that I'll probably hear about is what if somebody builds one of these and starts to operate like an Airbnb out of it? With the current kind of stipulations within our city code are just apply to any sort of auxiliary buildings on these properties?
Yes, I believe it would.
Okay. And I'm basically just very excited that this is happening. I don't know that I have many further questions, and I am past the fact that you already kind of alluded to the city manager that you guys are going to go out into the community and get some feedback from people. And I think that's good to get that from the citizenry because while I might be stoked to see that we're finding creative ways to get safe, affordable housing within the city limits up, I know that I don't share the view of everyone. So I appreciate you guys doing the legwork on that and bringing it to us first so we know exactly what you guys are about to do. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
I think the real question for a lot of folks is going to be, if I have one of these, do I have to let my in-laws move into it, or is that still optional? That's going to be family to family. But no, I think it sounds good. Glad we got a heads up, and let us know what else we can do to help promote it as you move forward with discussion in the community.
Thank you.
Anything else on that?
Oh, I do have one more thing to say, Chair.
Yeah.
I also just want to bring attention to the fact that it's using the utility infrastructure that we already have in place whenever people are building these auxiliary units. So while it might be a good way for people to invest in their own property, it's not going to be. I'm hoping that it's not too much of an extra burden on the city because we're not adding new sewers, new water lines. Evergy and Kansas Gas are just adding a few extra things. So just another thing I'm very excited about, the efficiency of this project. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. 2023 electrical code adoption. Hello, sir.
Looking at adopting 2023 code, Fire Protection Association. He already has.
Just push it. There you go.
There we go.
Okay, the city already has codes that we use for construction of in the community, and right now we're using the 2017 National Electrical Code, which goes for the commercial construction as well as residential. As you can see, we have updated quite a few of our codes. It's the governing body's desire that we have the most current codes. This is the most current electrical code. They adopt the codes they revise the code every 3 years. A good practice is to update your codes, city codes, every 6 to 9 years just to stay current. Updating the codes allows us to keep up with industry changes, also to provide a safety and better quality of life for our citizens. As you can see, this is not. No. That was the overview. I just went over that one. Okay, that's the next one. As you can see, other communities are in the 2017. We have one community, Manhattan, is in the 2020, and we will be the only community that has the 2023 National Electrical Code if we decide to update our codes. Next one. Next one. The review process was led by the Electrical Board of Appeals, which is made up of members of our community that are in the electrical profession. They were very specific that they wanted to move forward with adopting these new codes. City staff served as liaison to the board, providing input. We had the electrical inspectors there. I was there, and we talked about things that we felt were important to our community. The board decided not to make any amendments to the code. They were concerned that by doing that, it would jeopardize the safety of our community, and they felt that if there was someone that could not comply with the regulations, they could appeal to the board, and the board would work with them to address their concerns. Notable changes in the code. The new dwelling units are required to have electrical disconnect. This is for fire emergencies, so that now when the fire department comes up, they don't have to wait for Evergy to come to turn off the electricity. They can just turn it off right there at the meter box. The other one is bath and shower spaces. They used to allow electrical outlets below the water level in the tub, on the wall. Now they're in that area, in the tub and shower area. No electrical outlets are permitted in that area. A section has been added for the installation of solar panels. In the 2017, the code that we have presently doesn't even address the installation of the solar panels. The new 2023 code addresses the installation of the solar panels, which is, as everyone knows, is a big thing that's going on now. So adopting of the code would give us something to address that with. And that's my presentation. I will stand for any questions.
Well, you know, I get excited about updated codes, so thank you for bringing this forward. I appreciate the work of the board, and I know each one's very different. So some we've had multiple amendments. Obviously, this one's they decided it was a little not as necessary, which is great too. Kind of makes it a little easier, obviously, for you guys to know where to look and what the exceptions are. So I just thank you for the work. And Councilmember Nager, do you got any comments or questions?
Thank you for the work. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Didn't realize they let you put electric boxes under your bathtubs before. I don't know why the heck you'd want to do that in the first place, but I'm kind of glad to see that as a new safety feature. I already feel better. So I assume at this point we need to approve this so it can go to the council. Is that the step here? Okay. Well, then I would move to approve these recommendations. I have a second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, I didn't. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Valdivia-Acla. I did not see you there. That's actually the end of our agenda. How I'm going to backtrack, take chair prerogative, let Councilmember Valdivia-Acla know that we approved the Noto Development Fund with a definitive moving forward in the budget starting in 2024, and with the caveat that if staff, which they believe they do, can come up with funds for 2023, they will add that to the recommendation. I noted as we went through it that you advocated for this and pushed me to make sure we got it to this committee so we could move it forward. But since it's in your district and something I wanted to give you an opportunity to, if you had any comments on it, give you a chance to say something.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies. I don't even want to try to explain what happened that tied me up.
Kids, man, that's all you need to say, kids.
So at any rate, I just want to say thank you for that. I know that Tom Underwood with NOTO has been working diligently with all of us to, get that equity that they, are so firmly committed to obtaining there in NOTO and in that important arts district. And I'm glad that we were able to move this through and put it, find the funds for it, and hope, this will be the beginning of funding that NOTO can, as they continue to grow, feel that they can come to the city council for the committee for as needed after careful reflection as well of everything that they continue to do. So thank you, city manager, and thanks to the committee as a whole.
All right, with that, we're on to other items. I don't know if either of you have any comments or things you want to bring up before we get out of here. Councilmember Nager,
No, Chair.
Councilmember Valdiviacula.
I'm good.
What we are going to do is, most of the stuff we had on our plate today, we moved out. We are going to go ahead and schedule another meeting for the next 5 weeks or so, because I want to make sure we may have one or two things, but I also want to make sure as the staff gets into budget, that something may come up that they're like, oh, we really need to talk about this as we actually move through the budget process. So we'll get that on the books so it's there and have a standing meeting set. So if that works for staff, because I'm sure something else will come up as it does this time of year. So we'll get with everyone's calendar and make that happen. With that, I guess we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.